Zoom. Bava Kama daf kuf yud ches Amud Aleph, kuf yud ches Amud Aleph. Shiur nishmas. Somebody just got a phone call. Somebody was nifter, a relative of ours, old age. Avram Moshe ben Chaim. And this Shiur nishmas of Bari, Menachem ben Akiva, Rus bas Shalom, Sal bas Moshe Akiva ben Yitzchak, Rufus Estafum bas Shan Malka, Rufus Yudis bas Rivka, Norman Crow, Rufus Lea bas Tomo. Says the Heilige Mishnah. I have a ha'ora about what you said yesterday, but I will still continue because we're pressed for time. Says the Mishnah. Somebody stole from his friend, that's case number one. Oy shehil vahimenu, which is really lo vahimenu. A person borrowed money from someone, or shehiv kidloi, or the person had a deposit that his friend deposited in his place, which means we have three different variations on one theme. What is it? Shimon owes money to Reuven, either because he stole, or because he borrowed, or because of whatever. Yeah, but there is a difference. We'll see later. But so far, let's look at any different case. Yeah, whichever case it may be that somebody owes money to his friend, to Reuven. By Yishuv, that happened when they were in town. When they were both in RBSD, then what happened? Then some kind of transaction happened that for whichever reason, Shimon's money, no, let's be straight. Reuven's money is in the hands of Shimon because either Shimon stole or Shimon found, or in the Mishnah, Shimon borrowed, or Shimon had the famous candlesticks, whatever, deposited by him. Lo yachzir loy bamidbar. You know what happened next? This Mishnah is for Ben's money. Yoo-hoo! What happened? Well, Reuven is now in a real desert trip or in a safari trip, yeah? He went from RBS, and now he is in the trip. You know who he meets in the trip? That's so cool. Shimon. Shimon, who owes money to Reuven, found him in the trip while he's wearing jeans, t-shirt. Not only that, even worse, yet Reuven, because he's in the trip, he doesn't really have his office there. He doesn't have a proper envelope. He doesn't have his safe. And therefore, Reuven does not feel comfortable getting the money back from Shimon. In other words, Shimon says, hey, look, you know what? Look, I have the candlesticks with me. I have the money with me right now in the middle of the safari trip, in the Midbar trip, while we're on the camels being led by Mahmoud Abdul. Now I want to give you back the money. And I want to get rid of it. You know what I want to get rid of it? I don't want achrayas. I don't have the achrayas on me that I'm your shomer, because all these variations, he's really becoming like a achroy responsible. Oh, very good. I want to have the headache out of my mind. Oh, what great luck that I found you in the desert here. And now, in the middle of the desert, on top of the camel, I'll give you the $50,000 in cash in the middle of the desert. If you were Reuven, would you like to accept the money in that scenario? Not always. Says the Mishnah, Lo yachzir lo bamidbar. Uh-oh. Reuven can say, no, I'm sorry. Just because you want to get rid of the headache, and by the way, maybe you stole from me, Hafkod, it doesn't even make a difference. Lamaisa, I don't have my office here. I don't have my safe here. It's not Mokum HaMishtamer. It's not a place where I can actually guard and save my money in a normal situation. So no, I'm not going to accept it. Says I saw a lot of stuff. I don't remember who says what. Says I think Shulchan Aruch even people say unless you want to give me the 50,000. Okay, we'll make a little star that you are still responsible. In other words, I'm not willing to shake you off the responsibility because you're giving it to me in an irresponsible kind of place. Yeah. Therefore, I have the right as Reuven, the money owner, to refuse and say, these are not the right settings, the right background to receive money or candlesticks or computer or whatever is in your hands that you owe me just because you want to get rid of the headache. No, wait until we go back, both of us, to RBSL, and then I will get it from you. And the Tovea, the owner, has every right to say that. However, the Mishnah concludes the Seifa, Al Menas Lotzes Bamidbar. Let's say that, 2 months ago, way before the holiday, you know what happened then? Reuven lent money to Shimon or deposited to Shimon or whatever to Shimon, and there was a condition. Says Shimon, listen, if I meet you in our next safari trip in the Midbar in Sinai, then I'll give it back to you. Then you accept it. In other words, there was a precondition that he will be able to give it back to him in those kind of crazy settings. Then Yachzol Bamidbar, then he may do that. Everybody here is asking a question. You know that I'm a telepathist, a mentalist. You people are asking, why did you say it? Now people won't know I'm a mentalist. So says the peanut gallery, and everybody thinks that it's possible. What's the chiddush? If I made a condition, you have to fulfill the condition. Avada, you think it's the Knesset over here? Of course, if you make a condition, you have to fulfill it. So that will be discussed in the Gemara. That piece of Gemara, which we're going to see, will sound very simple to you. I want to thank my Chavrusa and Oitzer Chochma, Hashem, that we managed to get shot in this Gemara. Because this Gemara is not difficult once you hear the explanation. The explanation we're going to give you is based on a lot of commentaries. I'm just telling you. Frek the Gemara. A quick one. You know that this desert is in China, Gobi Desert, and it's near North Korea. There's the Gemara. But I mean, the Gemara now is going to basically present us with a brisa that contradicts the Mishnah. It says in the brisa, if you borrowed money, you want to give back the money, you may give back the money that you borrowed anywhere you want. I met you in Antarctica, I met you in the desert, in the savannah of South Africa, wherever I want, I can give it back to you. So that's already not like our Mishnah. Question mark. Continues the brisa, even weirder. Aveda upikadon and mishtal min el bim koiman. But if I want to give you back a lost object that I found, I'm Shimon. I want to give you Reuven, the owner, the Aveda that I found, or the Pikadon. Remember the candlesticks which you deposited by me. I want to give it back to you. And mishtal min el bim koiman. Those items, if this is an Aveda or a Pikadon, either money, not money, whatever, those can only be given back in the place of origin. Yeah, you borrowed it in RBS, give it back in RBS. And then, so there are two questions which I have. The Gemara is asking, first of all, you see the Mishnah contradicts the Brisa. When it comes to borrowing, then is it just an outright contradiction, right? Here you say, I can give you back the milva. I'm the loiva. I borrowed the 10,000 pounds from Ellen. Oh, in the middle of some crazy trip, riding on horses, doing extreme sports, absolutely unsafe. The Mishnah says, don't give it back to me. You can say, I don't want to receive it now. And the Brisa says, depends. The Brisa says, if it's milva, then I can give it to you wherever I want, and by Avedo Pikadon, only in the original place. What's going on here? Yeah, it's a stira. It doesn't make sense. Everything will be good. Kinder, no, not kinderlach. Omar Abaye, sorry. Omar Abaye, Choshev mentioned. Omar Abaye censors the Gemara. Omar Abaye, no. Hachika Omar. Abaye completely turns the tables, diametrically opposed. This is what the Brisa said. It's just. What do you mean, just the opposite? Milva nitna litova b'chol makoim. Avedo pikodon litnu litova ela b'mkoim. What's litova? To be sued, to be demanded. It's just the opposite. Reuven and Shimon met in the midbar. The story started the same as in the Mishnah. The Brisa and the Mishnah started the same story, and then there was a big twist in the tale. In the Mishnah, what did we say? There was a loan 2 months ago. Yeah, Reuven lent Shimon, or Reuven deposited by Shimon, or Shimon stole, or Shimon found. Shimon has Reuven's money for whichever reason. Shimon is the one anxious to give back the money in a very crazy place in the middle of the safari trip. Says Reuven, don't give me the money now. Where will I keep it? Where will I? What's going on with you? The Brisa is just the opposite. They meet in that trip, and Reuven says, "Oh, I'm so glad you have money for a nice vacation. I want my money now," says Reuven to Shimon, and Shimon is the one who says, "No, I don't want to give it back to you now." Get it? It's just the opposite. That's the Brisa, which means no questions for the next 5 minutes. You have to understand that this is based on a lot of information. If it's milva, yeah, Reuven sees the Nosekel Shulchan Aruch say, Reuven knows, Reuven is a bit of a yachne, and he saw that Shimon has a lot of money in the street. He owes him $5,000, and he has 20,000, and that desert trip costs less than that. He knows that he has enough to sustain himself and the family and the kinderlach and the eniklach well, and he still has extra 5,000. And Shimon admits, yes, I do. But Shimon says, I don't give it to you now. Says Reuven, no, you give it to me now, even though this is not your regular place, because by halva, as opposed to the other things, eved loy v'leish malve, I did you a favor. And all the Meforshim say, when you lend money to a person, the lender has the, not Haimor Grad, has the advantage, halachic advantage over the borrower. You borrowed money, I'm going to demand my money now. Any situation, even if we happen to travel in space, I'll demand the money now. If you don't have money to sustain yourself now, then no. By the way, I'm avoiding questions here. The time of the return, the due date came. Yeah, you were supposed already to give the money, I don't know, a few days ago, let's say, right? So then I demand it. However, let's say it's Avedo Pikodon, continues the Brisa. Let's say I know my name is Reuven, and I know that you, Shimon, you have the Aveda, you have a lost object that you found for me, and it's been quite a while that I want to get that lost object, and you've been avoiding me when we were in RBS. Yeah, okay. Or Pikodon, I didn't lend, I deposited by you my money or my candlesticks on my computer, yeah, and I didn't yet see it. And I'm saying, oh, you came now to the desert trip together with me, you came a few days later. I want my candlesticks now, I want my money now, I want my whatever thing now. So then we say he cannot demand it from him on that spot. I'm asking a question, why not? If Shimon took the candlesticks to the midbar, why can't he give them to Reuven? Avada, yes, Reuven demands it. Say the Meforshim, after a lot of research, the Meforshim says, here comes the punchline. Here comes the moment of wow. Says Reuven to Shimon like this. Listen, Shimon, it's been quite a while since you did not, I gave you those candlesticks to hold for me. And it's been a few days and I really want them. Now, if it's the midbar, he does not have the candlesticks there. Reuven says, you know what? Well, my candlesticks are worth 5,000 shekels. And I know you have extra 5,000 shekels cash in your pocket now. You don't really need it, yeah? So you have enough for the trip. I want to demand from you cash now instead of the candlesticks. Leave the candlesticks by you in Ramat Bet Shemesh and give me their worth now on the trip. That you cannot do. That you cannot do even if Shimon has million extra. Why? Because here, by Reuven and Shimon, they're equals. As opposed to although, where Shimon is like a slave to Reuven, said Shlomo Melech, Reuven and Shimon, if anything, by the way, Shimon did the favor to Reuven. Sometimes it's a Shomer Chinam, right? So by Shimon looking after his candlesticks or finding his Aveda, Reuven cannot get sort of aggressive and say, I want it now. And if not, I want the money now because you don't have the item now. No, I'm doing you a favor. We'll wait very nicely until we finish our trip and we'll watch all over Sinai and go on deserts and camels all over wherever, the desert in Japan, wherever in China. And then when we come back home, then I'll give it to you. So let's summarize. The Mishnah talks about what? The one who has the money and wants to give it back to its owner. I don't care why. The one who refuses to receive and get his money from the one who's anxious to already get rid of it, I don't get it now. No, these are not the right settings. I don't have my envelopes here, not my secretary, and not my safe, and not my cupboard. No, don't give it to me now, and you'll still be responsible for an extra amount of time until we come back home to our normal settings. I'll put on my business suit and my tie, and then I'll receive it. That's the ratio. That's the Mishnah. Rice is the opposite. What happens when they meet each other in those crazy circumstances, and the one who gave the money is demanding, I want my money back now. If it's halva, cash, which was cash and will be cash, all the time cash, he has the right to demand it. Unless Shimon will be broke in the trip, then Reuven is allowed to demand, I want my money now. You want extravaganza thing for your kids on the holiday? No, give me the money now. You have enough now. If we're talking about Pikodo in Baruch Hashem, about Pikodon or Aveda, they're equals. And then Reuven has no right to demand the worth, the value of the Aveda in cash now and say, stay with the Aveda. Shimon can refuse and say, no, you're not doing me a favor here to start. No, I don't have, basically be forced to buy your candles, right? They'll be forced to buy your Aveda. I'm not interested in the computer or in the candlesticks. And it's mitigating circumstances. You're tough luck. You didn't do me a favor. I don't have to dance by your flute, says Shimon to Reuven. That's the Sikum Inyonim. If anybody has a question, he can ask when we get to the next Mishnah. We have one more paragraph, and then there will be a little bit of time for free thinking and freedom of speech. Here comes the safe of the Mishnah. If they made a condition that when I got the money from you, whichever circumstances they were, I said, yes, on condition that we will meet in the midbar and give you the money back in the midbar, then they fulfill the condition because they both agreed. Everyone's screaming silently, what's the chiddush? Dok, the heilige Gemara, pshita. Oh, you think like the Gemara. Answers Gemara, lo, tzricha. No, there is tzrichus. The Brisa, but if you noticed, if you listen to the words of the Brisa, he never said al menas lehachzir b'midbar. What are the words in the Mishnah? Al menas lotzes b'midbar. Yeah, the condition is that I too will go out on that trip, and on that the Gemara harps on those words. Says the Gemara, the Amar Lei, you know the conversation was, it went as follows. The Gemara gives you mamish a recording of the conversation would happen 2 months before that funny, nice desert holiday. The Amar Lei, the knock on the door came. Mr. Candlestick's owner says, can you please look after those candlesticks for me? Because I'm going to the Midbar, I'm going to the safari trip in Africa, and there were burglaries in the area. Please look after the candlesticks. Omar Leiv, Omar Leihu, came the response from who? From the Shomer. And he says, oh, really? Oh, you're going to that trip in Africa? You mean the one arranged, the Glatt trip arranged by Rosenstein and Rubinstein, that trip? Oh, really? I'm also going to go there. I'll just go there a week after you. I'm not going to go August 1st. I'm going August 7th. I also want to go to the Midbar. Listen to his words. And if I want, he's not sure. If I choose to give back the candlesticks on that trip while we're riding on elephants, then I leave myself the option to give them back to you, maybe. Which means, says Rashi, as Machavurus Nanam Medayik, he tells them as follows. It's not a condition. He didn't say he wasn't like all stern-faced and clear, and he said, I'm willing to get those candlesticks on condition that you really would, on condition, right? On condition that I'll give you back the candlesticks and midbar. That's not a chiddush. It's not what he said. It was ambiguous. He said, I will go to the desert. I have my tickets. Look at my computer. You can see I have my tickets also for that same very trip, but a bit after you. And maybe I leave myself the option open to possibly give you back the candlesticks in the midbar, or v'chula, the value v'chula. Then the chiddush is, although it wasn't a mamish condition of if yes, yes, if no, no. He left it a bit open, but Reuven, the owner, didn't object. So that means Reuven knows of that possible option and never said no. Mimela, that's already a chiddush, because it's not a mamish at night. Mimela says the Gemara, Reuven will have to now get, whatever you want to call it, the candlesticks from Shimon, even while he is riding on his crazy donkey in the middle of nowhere. Yes. Everyone is happily continuing to the next Mishnah. The very last part is like this. If Shimon, I wouldn't say hinted, if Shimon mentioned, that Shimon is one receiving the deposit, and he said, oh, I'm also going on that trip. I know I'm going on that trip, and maybe I leave myself the option open of giving you back your deposit, whatever that is, in the midbar. Didn't make a condition. But Reuven knows that it may happen, possibly. That's already enough for Shimon to have the grounds to say he sort of silently possibly agreed. And then Shimon, will be able to give it back and get rid of his achrayus, and will be back on Reuven's achrayus, in the middle of the desert, while he's riding on the donkey. What am I doing on the donkey, going crazy with candlesticks in my pocket? You should have thought that at the beginning. You agreed. You silently agreed. So, bevakasha. Yeah. Hey. Yeah. I'm listening. No, I'm not always in North Korea. Before we continue to the next Mishnah, there is another middle of the road story, not your question, and that is if you borrowed in Ramat Beit Shemesh and I meet you in Beitar where you don't live and you don't have an office, can I give it to you back in Beitar? It's a normal place. You can get an envelope. You can maybe quickly buy a safe, but it's not really your home field. That's a different question that in Shulchan Aruch, okay? I'm just saying that's like in the middle of the road kind of case. Says the Mishnah, but your case, no. If you borrowed in the midbar, for you, midbar is a good place for business. So obviously, I'll give it back to you in the midbar. You can't force me to return it in a place which is higher and more secure than what you gave me. You set the tone here, and you gave it in the midbar. I'll give it back in the midbar. Quite simple. I'm pretty. It's Meduik in the Mishnah. No, you said your story was your case was a good question. He was given in the midbar your story.
No. I didn't say given it.
Then what?
He's given it back Shemesh.
That's the Mishnah. A person comes and there are two ways to read this Mishnah. I'm reading it now one way. A person comes and confesses to his friend and says, Zalticha, Ilvitani, Ifkadeto etzli. He says, your money is by me, meaning either I stole from you, or you lent me money, or deposited by me. Which means I know that originally there was a time I owed you money. There was a situation in which your money came to my hands one way or another. That I know, but I don't know. I don't remember if I returned it to you or not. Chayev l'shalem. Then the person who knows that he, let's say, borrowed, but doesn't know if he returned, has to give back the money to the owner. Now, that could be explained. What's the other side? Is Shimon coming to Reuven and giving him this lecture? He comes to Amud Yomi, instead of sharing with us, I don't know, the news from yesterday, he says, I borrowed money from you. And what does the other guy say? We don't know. Yeah, we don't yet know. What's the other side of the comic book, of the conversation? That's case number one. Aval, says the Seifa. Im omer loy eini yodeim zalticha im ilvitani im ifkadet etzli potom l'shalem. If Shimon comes to Reuben one sunny morning and says, I don't know. I think maybe I borrowed from you. Maybe I stole. Maybe this. Maybe ifkadeto. Then it's potter. You get the difference. The difference, bigadol, is very logical. If I come to you with my confession and I say, I know that I borrowed, but I don't know if I returned, then we say, then you have to return. We're also not sure why, but okay, there's higher chances that things happen. But if I say, I'm not sure if I borrowed from you, didn't borrow from you, then the whole thing is one big question mark. Then I don't have to give back to you anything. These are just the words of the Mishnah. Now, there are two possible explanations to the Mishnah. Either the other side that I'm approaching is like blank-faced. He doesn't know. He doesn't react. He doesn't know either. Yeah, it's like a chiddush for him. Or maybe the other side is demanding. Maybe this whole conversation, it sounds like a monologue. Is it a monologue or a dialogue? That's the question. Maybe it's a dialogue. Maybe this Mishnah, has another side here of Reuben who's coming angrily and says, you owe me money. And then Shimon said, I know I owed you, but maybe I returned. Or responds and says, maybe I borrowed, maybe not. These are the two ways to read it. Let's see how the Gemara explains, and all will be explained. I just prepared you. Says the Gemara, not a hard Gemara. Itma, mechloikes amaroim. Itma is mechloikes amaroim. I only learned it a few months ago from a chavru, so whenever it says itma, it's a mechloikes. I never learned that. Itma. Manali beyodcha. We had that, by the way, many times already, this kind of Gemara. Manali beyodcha. Reuven comes to Shimon one sunny morning and says, you owe me money. You owe me money. Shimon says, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if yes or no. Reuven is sure and certain, and Shimon, the one being blamed, the one being accused, says maybe not. I actually don't remember. Don't know. Machlokes, famous machlokes. Ravuna and Rav Yehuda Amri chayev. Ravuna and Rav Yehuda together say chayev. He has to give him the money with no edim. Reuven has no edim. Reuven is just certain, and Shimon is a maybe. How is it called in Hebrew? Very good, Jeff. You get 10 points. Bari v'Shema. Very good. Ravuna and Rav Yehuda say that Shimon, the maybe guy, has to give it to the for sure guy. Rav Nachman and Rabbi Yochanan Amri Patu. Rav Nachman and Rabbi Yochanan together they say no, he doesn't have to give him anything. Why? Rav Huna and Rabbi Yehuda Amri Chayev. Rav Huna and Rabbi Yehuda say that the maybe guy who's being accused has to give the money. Very nice what you said. Bari v'Shema Bari Odif. In other words, Bari, famous line, Bari v'Shema Bari Odif, which means a for sure, a certain, how did they translate Bari v'Shema? A person has a certain, for sure, assertive time and he knows, and the other guy says, maybe you're right, he's much more shaky in his taina. That's a big chiddush. Although Reuven, the Tovea, has no edim, no star, no thing, yet the mere fact that he is certain and the other guy is a maybe, that alone means that Reuven can take the money out because of his taina. That's enough to combat the famous dogma of the fact I am sure, and you agree to me partially, like half oido, vice my taina, that's good enough. Now, that's why they say you should never admit things if you're not sure that the other guy is right. You're going to put yourself in the mud. Rav Nachman Rabbi Yochanan Amri Potu. Rav Nachman Rabbi Yochanan say Potu. Uki mamon b'cheskas morei. They say no, ma pitom. Didn't you go to Kita Dalet? What did it say Kita Dalet? What did the Rebbe teach us? Leave the money in the hands of its owner or of its supposed owner, which means we always say when I hold on to something, and that's the situation that we're facing. I have this cup, I have the 5,000 shekels in my pocket. You come to be mechadish only situation that those 5,000 are owed to you. Yeah, then we say, who said? Just because you're certain and I'm a maybe, your certainty, your assertiveness, and your knowledge, as opposed to my maybe, is not enough. Listen to my Agdora. It's a Lomdish Agdora. It's not a tool strong enough to combat the Matzah Mechel of Araya. Okay? Can you fight an atom bomb and nuclear bomb with a little pistol? Funny joke. No. The Japanese, the same one war before they were advanced, right? They came with boats. Not Second World War. That was terrible. Way before that. Remember, there was one war. The Japanese came with very advanced ships against some bombs or guns. It was a joke, yeah? They had very advanced boats, but they didn't have firearms. And the other side had real firearms. Of course they lost. I remember I read once, yeah? In other words, just because you're certain is not enough of a gun to take out of the other guy who has a big gun on his side of what's Mechaber Lavaraya. That's what Rav Nachman Bar Yochanan Amri, and usually halacha is like them with an exception. So that's a machlokas. The same machlokas appears very cool at the end of Bava Kama, which is here, end of Bava Metzia, and the end of Bava Basra. Interesting. Not the very end of Bava, yeah. Bari v'Shema Bari Odif versus Amotz Mechaver Lavaraya. That's a machlokas. Now let's look at our Mishnah. Yeah, I hope you didn't get confused with my descriptions of the Mishnah. Now the Mishnah will be re-explained very nicely. And actually, our Mishnah will be a challenge to one of the opinions we just mentioned now. Now, Baruch Hashem, learn Torah. Now, says in our Mishnah, at the end of the Mishnah, it said in the second case, right? Let's say the person comes and confesses and says, maybe I borrowed money from you some time ago, is potur. He doesn't have to give, yeah? I don't know if I borrowed money from Tzvi, yes, no, I don't have to give. Frag the Gemara, hey Chidami, what exactly is the case? Now you're going to understand what I spoke about before. What does the other side say? I come to Tzvi one morning and say, Tzvi, I don't know if I borrowed money from you, yes or no. What does Tzvi say? What's the story? If Tzvi never spoke to me, never demanded of me, never, and I'm like mechadish to Tzvi, I'm mechadish to the other guy, then Reisha Nami, the Reisha and the Sefer have to be consistent. So in the Reisha, we also are talking in a case when the other side is silent and clueless. And if so, am I chayev? What did the Reisha say? Remind me. The Reisha said that if I come to you and I say, I know that I borrowed, but I don't know if I gave back. Why should I give you? You are not claiming anything. I have to go, not to Beis Din, I have to go to a psychologist to get some memory pills. Maybe I have amnesia, but why should I have to pay money? If you don't demand anything, you sort of silently, amusingly listen to my story and say, I know I borrowed, but maybe I returned. Why should I have to pay? Or Marlon, this, I think, I didn't see it anywhere. I'm a bit scared to say. It's even a little bit of amigo, right? I'm the one who's mechadish to the world that there was a loan. Nobody else says it. Nobody else, I could have stayed silent, right? So Mimela, of course I'm not chayev. So Mimela, our Mishnah cannot be talking that the other side is like, sitting there quietly and saying, interesting. No, must be Ella, must be our Mishnah is talking about the other version of the story. It's a dialogue, not a monologue. The guy comes to me and says, excuse me, Agiva, you owe me money, right? In the Reisha, before the Gemara continues, and by the way, that's Aloche. In the Reisha, he comes to me and says, you owe me money for sure. And I said, yes, you're right. I owed you money for sure, but maybe I returned. In such a case, I have to return. Why? Because it's Bari and Shema. You get it? The Teveh says Bari. The Nitba also says, yes, I do remember a loan taking place with a green envelope and a check exactly, Rosh Chodesh Sivan, right? Okay. And I say, maybe I returned. No, me go there. Then of course I owe him the money. That's a very good explanation for the Reisha. Bori against, I'm also saying Bori and then saying maybe I return. If so, then of course now comes the punchline. And yet, Biktani Seifa, Patum el boom, boom, boom. And yet in the Sefer, if Tzvi comes to me and says, Akiva, I know you owe me, and I say, maybe, I don't say, yes, I know there was a loan and maybe you return. I say on your whole story, maybe. On the Ganze Maisa, says the bride, says the Mishnah at the end, and Potter, no. So you see that Bari v'Shema, love Bari Odif. You see Rabbi Yochanan was right. We still apply Moitzim Chaveiroi. We don't say just because one guy is certain and the other one is a maybe, because that's really the Seifa. And we don't say that he owes him money. Certainty over uncertainty does not win. So you see that Mishnah is a very strong card on Rabbi Yochanan and Rav Nachman as opposed to Rabbi Yehuda and Rav Huna. Yeah, that's the question, and attack on them. Sounds like we don't say Bari v'Shema because that's a Seifa. And Potu is exempt from paying. And says the Gemara, loy, opala, we're flipping it again. No, la'olam, we're going now again to read the Mishnah the first way. That the other side is absolutely silent and like looks, he gives it this deer in the light kind of look, yeah? Loy, la'olam deloy katovale. Really, both Reisha and Seifa, Tzvi doesn't demand anything from me, such a nice guy, yeah? Lo tovale, it's not to anything at all. Only one side is making a monologue of a confession. If so, Vereisha. So if I make my confession and I say, I owed you money, I borrowed money for sure, and I don't know if I returned. Why do we say that he's potter, as we said migo? Why do we say in the Reisha that he's chayiv? At the end of the day, it's my own maybe with myself. The other guy says, garnished, I don't know, he went home to have coffee. And says the Gemara, a punchline, Bevolotse sidei shamayim. That's the Reisha. The Reisha is as follows. If I am the one sort of, having my own bad conscience, I wake up at night and I say, oh, so many tzoros, maybe I owe money to someone. Oh, Achashverosh, in the middle of the night. And then there are two versions to my own story with myself, with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. If I know, if the other guy doesn't say anything, the other guy says whatever you want, doesn't say anything, he's not part of the picture. Says the Reisha, I'm with myself and with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. If I know that I borrowed and I don't know if I returned, Lidei Shomayim, to be good with the Kadosh Baruch Hu, you have to return. Yeah, you have to return in that kind of maybe, you have to return because you borrowed. So within yourself, not between you and Beis Din, between you and yourself, you borrowed and you don't know if you returned, then what? Give back to be clean. You come to Gan Eden much cleaner. 120. Mashaim Ken, if the whole Sofek is a Sofek, I don't know if I borrowed to begin with, I don't know if ever there was loan, yes or no, then even let's say Sidei Shemaim, I don't have to return. And that's halacha. That's halacha in Shulchan Aruch. Okay? Yeah? That if you know that you borrowed and you don't know if you returned, Lidei Shemaim, you have to give back. Maybe it's extra, maybe not. But if you don't know if you borrowed, yeah, you start having doubts, did I or didn't I borrow to begin with? Maybe yes, maybe no, 50-50. In that case, you don't have to return even Lidei Shemaim. We're not saying that the other guy is toveh. Now, yeah? Yes. Yeah, of Avada. The other guy doesn't say anything, and you know that you borrowed, and you don't know if you returned. It's only B'dei Shamayim, because you don't know that you owe. You don't know you owe money. It's still a maybe, but that kind of maybe is stronger than the other maybe. In that level of maybe, of yes, I borrowed, and maybe I returned, that level B'dei Shamayim, you have to give back. That's halacha l'maaseh. I mean, yeah? Now, let's just finish, and then I have something more to say, and they'll be open to questions. Give me literally 3 lines with just another I wrote. Itmanami, another Bryce, another member to prove what we just said. The Bidei Shemaim is a whole new level. This is Rabbi Yochanan talking. Rabbi Yochanan did not believe in Bari v'Shema Bari Odif, and yet he says, "Amel Chavera, manu li beyodcho." The classical case, Bari v'Shema. Who says, "I know you owe me money." Shimon says, maybe yes, maybe no. No. What did Rabbi Yochanan and Rav Nachman say? You don't have to return. I can go home and say, right? No, Bari v'Shema. What's in Chavero? I'm a Kita Dalet guy. What's in Chavero? Go home. Yet, Chayev. Chayev? Since we had to say Chayev, we just had to say Potter. They too, in their level, both Rabbi Yochanan and Rav Huna, each one in his own camp, they both believe let's say the Shemaim is a different story. And that's the halacha. The halacha is that did check it tested the Baruch Hashem is like this. Really Bari v'Shema, lav Bari Odif. If it's a regular case in Beis Din, in other words, Reuven comes to Shimon, you owe me, and Shimon says, I don't know. The day Adam Beis Din cannot force him. As long as Reuven doesn't bring a gezun teraya, edim, give me artillery, a bomb, a nuke. Yeah, as long as you don't have Adim or Star or something on your side, just because you're certain the other guy is uncertain, it's not enough for Beis Din to make him pay. However, Bidei Shamayim, yes, he will have to pay. Another case, which we derived from a Mishnah, if you noticed on the way to the end of the Sugya, what happens if Reuven says in Beis Din, you borrowed money from me, and Rosh Chodesh Sivan, you borrowed $500 in a green envelope, and Shema says, yes, I borrowed green envelope, but maybe I returned. That case, we say he has to return, right? Because Bari versus person's owns Bari the Shema, there's a Toiveya. The Toiveya knows there was a loan. And the Nitva says, yes, it was a loan, but maybe I repaid. Then even with the Odom, he has to pay because you don't have Nigo anymore. That's already. We both agree that there was a loan and maybe I returned. Then I'm muchzak to borrow and I'm not muchzak to return. Then you have to give back, even according to Rav Nachman and Rabbi Yochanan. There's a little bit of freedom of speech. I'm saying it like that because once I heard a guy saying it, so I got that kind of slang. Yes, I'm listening to every syllable coming out of your mouth.
We say that case where knows.
Before we continue the Mishnah, I will mention, Rashi does say that the person who denies or even says maybe, the Kolshikin says maybe yes, maybe no, the Shema guy, even though the Shema, the maybe guy stays with the money that's in his possession, he still has to take Shvua that he really doesn't owe money. Says the Mishnah. Chart. This Mishnah will be a chart, but an easy chart attack coming today. Says the Mishnah. Now we're going to talk again about the quality of returning the Aveda, right? Oh, excuse me, the Gzela. You stole, let's say, a sheep from the herd, from the flock, and now you return it. So there are two ways to do it. Everybody knows, either the person can come clean and be courageous, be a man and say, I'm so sorry, Mr. Chami uncle, I stole your sheep, but here it is, I'm returning it. I stole the sheep and I'm informing you that I'm returning you now the sheep. Please forgive me. It's all my mother's fault. Only once a year she took me in a safari trip with the candlesticks in the pocket. Such a terrible childhood. Only once a year in Disneyland. Broken childhood. That's why I became a Ganav. But now I want to return it. I want to give you back the sheep. And here it is, all very nice. What's the other version? None the wiser, as you say in English. What you don't know doesn't hurt you. He stole the sheep, maybe milked it a bit. I gave it back in the middle of the night. The sheep came back. Don't look at me. I gave it back. I don't have it. I gave it back. He doesn't know. He doesn't know that he was stolen. Doesn't know. What do you want from me? I'm a good guy. I have to make confessions. I'm a Christian. He's a priest. No, Gamarnu. These are begadol, very, very begadol. We're going to see many variations and see begadol. There's, coming clean and admitting, and there is, silently give it back without the guy knowing any better. Let's see what the Mishnah has to say about that. Says the Reisha, there's a Reisha and Sefer here that are very clear, and we're going to twist them 4 times over. A Ganav told him in the Eder, a person stole a taleh, a sheep, a kid from the Eder, from the flock, from the herd, and he gave it back. But the other guy did not know at all. Meaning, the other person, by the way, in the Reisha, I'm preempting here problems, In the Reisha, the person, Nigna, the owner, knew that little Bessie, the Shepsele, Molly, that Molly, the sheep, is missing. He saw that Molly, the sheep, is missing. And then what happened? He returned it without letting him know. The owner knew that the sheep is missing, and the Ganav returned it without informing that it's back. Okay? So the owner thinks that it's still missing. He didn't yet count them or anything, okay? He still thinks it's missing. The mace onignav, after, listen to a very specific gray area, after the sheep was returned, but the Balim doesn't yet know about it, okay? 9 o'clock in the morning, he returned the sheep. But only 9:30 decided to let him know, or 9:30 the guy realized that it's back. Between 9 and 9:30, when he was physically back, but the owner didn't know about it. At that moment, you know what happened? Another guy stole it, or it died, or got a heart attack. Something happened. The thief, the original thief who didn't yet inform, has to give him a new sheep. Why? A new sheep. Why? I told you yesterday, and I told you many times. A Ganev is chayiv b'achrayus, right? His Geneva term did not yet end. If the guy knew that it was lost, stolen, and didn't know that it's back, it's as if you did not yet return it. And if you didn't yet return it, even though geographically it's in the possession of the owner, but he's not aware of it, that's not called real chazara. You still have the title of Ganav on your forehead, which means that if now something happens to it out of control, oines, Gayan, I told you many times, Ganav chayv beoinsin. A Ganav is chayv beoines. You're not a nice guy, Mr. Ganav. It's not my fault. Sorry, Ganav. Don't tell me not your fault. It's not your mother's fault either, yeah? And therefore what? And therefore is chayev or whatever happens because it's not called yet the proper return. That's the reisha. Says the seifa, lo yodu bailim, lo bignavosav, lo b'chazirosai. Let's say the bailim didn't even realize that it was stolen, didn't realize it was returned. In other words, they didn't know any better. None the wiser, nishtahi nishtaher. They have a lot of flock, a lot of sheep. He was busy doing something else, doing the Yomi. Umanus etzon v'shleimai. However, they did count the tzon. They know that they have 50 sheep in the herd and they counted 50. So they don't know about the whole story, but they're more or less aware. Counting is like a lower level of yediyah. There was 50 in the roll call of today of the camp of the sheep. He counted 50.50. Then the ganav is potter. Once there was a counting, I'm explaining the Mishnah in a very specific way. There are 4 ways to explain the Mishnah. I just translated the Mishnah for you. Now we're going to see 4 different variations. So let's just remember, there are a few factors here. Did the owner know, didn't you know, right? There was a theft to begin with. Secondly, what do you call knowing? Does the ganav have to come clean and say, I stole it and here I return? Or is it enough that he counted the owner yesterday 50, today 50, and that's good enough without the whole confession of the ganav? Everything will fall into place. There are 4 different opinions, very nice and easy. They're really easy. I'm saying it's just 4 quick opinions here. Omarav. Opinion number 1 is Rav. That's the beginning of the chart. Ladas, so ichdas, shelo ladas, minyan poiter. Rav is more or less what I told you. Rav says like this. If the person knew that it was stolen, is anxiously tearing his hair, biting his nails, looking for Dolly the sheep, Dolly, not Molly, Dolly the sheep that's missing, and what? And he knew that it was missing in the Reisha, and now he counts 50, and there are 50, it's not good enough. Maybe it's 50 from somewhere else. Maybe, no. As long as the Ganav didn't tell him, I stole, and here it is back by you, that's very specific, Al-Hanar, Zehis Palalti, that this Dolly, as long as you don't do that, you're not exempt, Mr. Ganav, and you chayev if the sheep, something happens to it. If there was full knowledge of theft, it has to be balanced by full knowledge of return. Yeah, you start a circuit, you close the circuit. You lent in the city, you give back in the city. You lent in the midbar, give back in the midbar. You stole the sheep and he very well knew about it and was dead worried. You have to give it back to him fully and be a man, stand up and say, don't blame your mother either, and say, I stole your sheep and here it is. However, lo ladas minyan poiter. If the guy was not aware, he was drinking his coffee, was doing other things, he didn't know they was stolen, didn't even notice afterwards. And what happens? And then it came back and he didn't hear the whole fancy confession, but he counted 50 today, 50 yesterday, that's good enough. For that level of no knowledge, it's enough to have a secondary kind of knowledge of just counting 50, all good. The Chiktani, and when the Mishnah said, Umanu esetzoin behishlema, when is it that we said that counting the tzoin and it's shlema, it's intact, the numbers are right, that's good enough? A seifa, that's in the seifa. But there was no knowledge of theft, so counting is good enough for that. Now, that's Rav. Ushmuel, number 2, Shmuel, there are four opinions here. Ushmuel Omar, Ben Ladas, Ben Shalol Minyan Poiter. Shmuel is very easy. Shmuel is the easiest one. Shmuel says, whether he knew or he didn't know, the counting is good enough of a idea. You know, you had 53 and a half sheep yesterday. Today you have 53 and a half. That's all good enough. Even if you did know. Counting is good enough as a way of informing him that he got it back. And therefore, before he counted them, the real owner and the stolen sheep got a heart attack, the Ganav is chayav. Once he counted, we came to a safe haven, safe shore. Once he counted 53, good enough. That's called knowing, regardless of their circumstances. And once he counted and he knows 53 yesterday, 53 today, whatever happened before, that's good enough of information to end the Geneva term, and you will be able to ask questions when we finish the Amud very soon. Yeah, that's good enough. What did the Mishnah mean when it says that they counted and it's shlema, it's good enough? Botu akula. It refers to both Resha and Seifa. The Resha spoke about the guy who knew that it was stolen. The Seifa didn't know. La Mishnah says Shmuel, I'm easy. Resha or Seifa, as long as the counting, the countdown, the roll call is good enough information. You are very well behaved today. Can I ask quick? Yeah, quick one. Yeah. We are in 2 out of 4 opinions in the middle of the tournament. We are very excited now. We're in a suspense. I'm listening. If I get you right, Baruch, you're explaining why counting is not always good. Maybe think there was wrong counting, right? Very good. That's Rav. You're a Rav fan. Very nice. You should wear a T-shirt. I love Rav. In other words, you're saying why Rav believes that if there was a knowledge of the sheep missing and then counting, right? Nimela, that's really not good enough. Or even if he may have thought
double-edged sword.
Right.
Because on the other side, when it does come, the reason why he doesn't have to confess is because counting.
May think the counting was wrong.
Counting,
okay. So Shmuel is not concerned about it. And Rav is beautiful. I'm very glad to let you speak. I'm joking. Rabbi Yochanan Oimer, been in long enough to know my unfunny jokes. Well, let me say the 4 opinions and summarize. No, Rav says depends. Says Rav like this. If he never knew he was stolen, he never knew. Why should he think that he counted 52 and there was no 51? He never was aware. Yesterday was 52, today 52. None the wiser. Yeah, en sechel en da'agot. You've heard that from Israelis. En sechel en da'agot. No brains, no worries. It's true. Yeah. However, if he knew that it was missing, yeah, he counted and one was missing, and now he counts again, and it's back to the old cheshbon. According to Rav, that's not good enough. And Baruch explained why. It's not enough to just recount because maybe I counted wrong. Maybe the sheep came from another herd. Let me finish with 10:22, and I'll promise I'll listen to you at 10:25. Comes opinion number 3. Rabbi Yochanan Oimer. Rabbi Yochanan is, by the way, the opinions are gradually more mako. Rabbi Yochanan Oimer, Ladas, if he knew that he was stolen, he was aware there was a theft, minyan poiter. For that, minyan is good enough. If I knew there was something missing, but now it's back to good old 52, 50, the same original number, it's good enough. Sheloladas, if he never knew of the theft, afil minyan namiloy tzarich. Wow. Says Rabbi Yochanan, if he was never aware of the theft, so even though he's not aware it's back, he doesn't even know, he doesn't know. He didn't know it was stolen, and he never even counted afterwards. It's fine. The gzela is over. Says Rabbi Yochanan, he never knew of the gzela. So in your mind, there was no gzela. Imela, I return it to you very quietly. Shh. And I'm just like not telling you anything. And you, the owner, you didn't even count. You don't have to count. Because Lamaisa, there was no knowledge whatsoever. Basically, it's one more level maker than Shmuel. If you follow the Mahalach, Rav is the most machmir. He requires real teary-eyed, misty-eyed confession in Yoda. Shmuel says counting, which is grade 2. The second level is what? Second best is always good. Rabbi Yochanan is even more makel, and he says in the case you didn't know there was theft, you don't have to know any information whatsoever at the end. Here, why? The Mishnah. How do you explain the Mishnah? Yeah, when is it that the Mishnah said that counting the tzon is good enough and it's shlem and it's intact and it's fine? A resha. Only in the resha you need it. In the because there was awareness of the theft. In the seifa, he didn't know there was a theft. None the wiser. And sechel and dagot. It's fine. It's good. You don't even have to know. You never knew to begin with. So it's called returning the loan, not the loan, the illegal loan, the gneva, even without him knowing. That's Rabbi Yochanan. Here comes Rav Chizda, and he turns over everything. Rav Chizda is the unbelievable opinion. Omar, Rav Chizda says exactly the opposite from Rav. Listen to this. Ladas, if the guy was aware of what? Of the theft, he knew there was a theft, then minyan poiter, then second grade knowledge of just counting is good enough. Shaloladas, if he was not aware of the theft, then tzarich das. Wow. If he did not know that Molly was stolen, Molly the sheep, or Dolly the sheep, then the guy has to come to him and say, Dolly was stolen. He has to das. When is it that we said that counting is good enough on the ratio? When you did know, you're raising your eyebrows. So does Rove. Omar Rove. Rove asked the question, my timer, the Rav Chizda. Why is Rav Chizda going? First of all, Rav Chizda is less readable with the Mishnah. I didn't stress it so much because Rav Chizda like twisting the ratio and the Seifa. And also Rav Chizda is going against mainstream opinions and logic. Answers the Gemara. And Rav Chizda is a halacha. Rav Chizda is coming with a whole new factor. We're not talking about confessions. Ho'il ve'anketa nagri b'raisa. Says Rav Chizda like this. That sheep was off the derech. That sheep already tasted the nice pleasure of the world out there, with the outside world. Yeah, it even ate a Rabbanut yogurt. Wow. Yeah, in other words, the story is like this. If the guy knew that the sheep was stolen, and he's somewhat aware that it's back. I mean, I hear what you're saying, but that's Rav, like you, but Rav Chizda is not like that. If I knew, there was one sheep that already got rebellious tendencies because it's been to grazing other places, and it may want to always go back to the other places, exciting places, and run away from my herd and my flock. So then the Bailim himself, upon getting the sheep back, even though all he knows is 52, 52, is there where somebody was stolen, I will now guard all of them better. I have one off the derech kid here. Now everything needs the education needs revamping. I'm going to look after them better. But if the guy, the owner, never knew that the sheep was out, he's completely unaware of what? Of the sheep that now got funny tendencies to go to other places. So Dafka, in that case, you, Mr. Ganev, you have to inform him more, and you have to point the finger and say, this sheep, this Molly the sheep, this one with the black spot in the back, she was the one stolen. And she's the one who already got used to eating hamburgers instead of grass. And she's the one that you have to now look after better because of that. And the winner is Rav Chizda. Ze alohe, says the guy which I spoke to once. Yes, I'll repeat Rav Chizda with greatest of pleasure. That's my favorite question, by the way. Can you repeat? Rav Chizda says as follows. When the person was not aware of a theft, and he counted, when he was aware, excuse me, I also got this. I was saying, Rav, when the person was aware of the theft, he knew there was a theft, he's very concerned. I have one sheep who went away. Even if the sheep comes back, once off the derech, she got used to other kind of a grazing area. She went to the river to wash herself. She's going to start running away. I need more shmira. And he's aware that there's an issue. A day later, he sees, there was 52. And like you very nicely said, then it was 51. Now back to 52. That's enough for him to be aware and be shomer his sheep. In other words, I don't know which one, but I know there was a theft. I know there was an issue. Now we're back to the same old number. I know to be aware and look after my sheep. They'll graze nicely and I'll be stricter with them. Masha'enkin, the guy who was unaware, he has no idea whatsoever. He's a spaceship kind of a shepherd. He didn't know there was a theft. He didn't know that Molly already knows other worlds and other areas. He went to graze in Tel Aviv. And then what? And now he's not aware of that. So for him, it's not enough to count. He's like a tamech, like a tipish. He counts 52, 52, 52. You're not aware what's going on in the middle of the night. She ran away and she came back. And now you're not aware. You have to give good shmir on everybody. That case says Rav Chizda. On that said the Mishnah, the Ganev has to tell him, listen, Mr. So-and-so owner, this very Molly the sheep with the black spot, she's the one who was out. You better look after her. Yes, there was a theft here, and yes, you have to look after her because he's not aware. That's what is the very logical thing. Rav and all his friends, they didn't look so much about the shmira. They were looking more after they were more concerned with the person's actual knowledge. You took something from the person, and he was aware. You have to bring it back to his awareness that the sheep is back home. Again, I didn't see Shulchan Aruch, but I just see the little lamed. If you see the little lamed at the end of Rav Chizda, means Rav Chizda is the winner, and the siyum is the next Sunday, not this coming Sunday, a week from Sunday night, I hope. Doesn't change again. Motzei, Yudzayin B'Tammuz, have a great Shabbos. Atzlocha, Refuah, Brius, everybody. Atzlocha from B'Shem.